My name is Rick Hayward, and I've been married to a stranger for 3 years, without knowing it. Tonight, at her 40th birthday party, that changes forever. I feel old and invisible, Iris announced to the crowded community center, her voice carrying that practiced vulnerability she'd perfected over the years. You don't look at me the way you used to. The guests, our neighbors, her coworkers, people who thought they knew us, nodded sympathetically. Lisa Marrow from next door actually dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. Melanie Kramer, Iris's best friend since college, squeezed her shoulder protectively. I stood in the back, holding a small wrapped box, watching my wife perform. Marriage changes things, Iris continued, glancing in my direction. Time makes you feel forgotten, neglected, like you're disappearing right in front of the person who promised to see you forever. More nods, more sympathetic murmurs. Dave Garrison, her boss from the marketing firm, shot me a disapproving look. Even Tommy Chen, supposedly my friend, seemed uncomfortable on my behalf. But I wasn't uncomfortable. I was fascinated. See, I used to be a journalist before I became a freelance IT consultant. Old habits never really fade, especially the habit of verifying stories before believing them. And Iris's story about feeling invisible? Well, that needed some fact-checking. 3 weeks ago, I'd started noticing inconsistencies, training sessions that ran impossibly long, recovery days that coincided with mysterious errands, a fitness schedule that defied human physiology but made perfect sense if you factored in hotel room availability. My wife wasn't invisible. She was just visible to the wrong person. Rick has been so distant lately, she said, really laying it on thick now. I try to connect, but it's like he doesn't see me anymore. Like I'm already gone. The crowd was eating it up. Poor Iris, neglected by her workaholic husband. Poor Iris, aging gracefully but feeling forgotten. Poor Iris, reaching out for connection in a cold marriage. I almost applauded the performance. Instead, I walked forward through the crowd, holding the gift box steady. Conversations quieted as I approached. Iris's eyes brightened. She probably thought I was going to play along, maybe deliver some heartfelt apology that would complete her narrative. You're absolutely right, I said, my voice carrying clearly in the suddenly quiet room. I haven't been looking at you the same way. Relief flickered across her face. This was going according to script. I handed her the box. Happy birthday, honey. She smiled that radiant smile that had fooled me for months, the one that said we were just going through a rough patch, that communication would fix everything, that marriage was hard work, but worth it. Her fingers worked at the ribbon with practiced grace. She was good at unwrapping things, gifts, lies, other people's trust. The paper fell away to reveal a simple white box. Inside, nestled in tissue paper like precious memories, were photographs. Iris, at the Riverside Hotel, Tuesday afternoon, wrapped in a towel that wasn't ours. Iris in the back seat of a BMW, Wednesday evening, in a position that had nothing to do with fitness training. Iris in Zane Marinor's apartment, Thursday morning, wearing nothing but a smile I hadn't seen in our bedroom for months. The timestamps were clearly visible in the corner of each photo. The metadata was intact. The locations were verified through GPS coordinates I'd pulled from her synced devices. Her face went through several expressions in rapid succession: confusion, recognition, horror, then something like calculation as she tried to figure out how to spin this. The room had gone completely silent. Not the comfortable quiet of anticipation, but the suffocating silence of collective shock. I leaned closer, speaking just loud enough for everyone to hear. You seem very visible to him. The box slipped from her hands, photographs scattering across the community center floor like fallen leaves. 25-year-old Zane Marinor, her personal trainer, her solution to feeling old, her escape from invisibility, stood frozen near the refreshment table, his face the color of chalk. Melanie gasped. Dave Garrison's mouth fell open. Lisa Marrow's phone appeared in her hand, probably already composing texts to spread the news. But I was watching Iris, watching the exact moment when her carefully constructed narrative collapsed, when sympathy transformed into something else entirely. "Rick," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I can explain." "No need," I said, straightening up. "The pictures explain everything." I looked around the room at all these people who'd been ready to judge me for neglecting my wife, for letting our marriage grow cold, for failing to appreciate what I had. "Enjoy the rest of the party," I told them. "I hear the cake is amazing. Iris picked it out herself. She's got excellent taste." I walked toward the exit, leaving behind the silence, the scattered photographs, and the woman who'd tried to rewrite our story with me as the villain. Behind me, I heard Melanie's voice, sharp with panic. "Everyone just calm down. This isn't what it looks like." But it was exactly what it looked like, and now everyone could see it. The cool October air hit my face as I stepped outside. 3 weeks of investigation, of careful documentation, of methodical evidence gathering, all leading to this moment. Iris had wanted to feel visible again. Mission accomplished. My phone buzzed with the first text message, then another, then a flood of them as the news spread through our small town's gossip network, like wildfire through dry grass. I got in my truck and drove home, leaving my wife to explain her visibility to a room full of witnesses. This was just the beginning. The house felt different when I walked in alone, not empty. Iris would be back eventually, probably with some elaborate explanation involving misunderstandings and context I couldn't possibly comprehend. But the silence felt cleaner somehow, like I'd finally stopped pretending to hear music that wasn't playing. I went straight to my home office, a converted bedroom that Iris had always complained was too cluttered. Tonight, the organized chaos of cables, hard drives, and backup devices felt like a sanctuary. Being an IT consultant has its advantages when your marriage becomes a crime scene requiring digital forensics. I'd been collecting evidence for 3 weeks, ever since the night Iris came home from a late training session, with her hair dry and her gym clothes suspiciously fresh. That's when the journalist in me woke up and started asking uncomfortable questions. The first breakthrough came from her phone backup. Iris was meticulous about backing up her photos, a habit that worked against her when those backups automatically synced to our shared cloud storage. She'd been deleting the incriminating images from her device. But she'd forgotten about the digital breadcrumbs. Hotel receipts told the second part of the story. Not charged to our joint account, of course. But Iris had used our shared computer to book rooms, and browsers remember everything if you know where to look. The third piece was location data. Her fitness tracker, the one she wore religiously to monitor her progress, had been documenting every location, every heart rate spike, every moment of elevated activity. The timestamps painted a very clear picture of what kind of exercise she'd been getting, but the real treasure was in the voice memos. Iris had a habit of recording reminders to herself, grocery lists, work tasks, random thoughts she didn't want to forget. What she'd forgotten was that these memos automatically backed up to our shared account. I pulled up the files now, scrolling through weeks of mundane recordings until I found the ones from last month. "Note to self," Iris's voice played through my speakers, breathy and excited. "Cancel dinner with Rick Wednesday. Tell him the session ran late. Zane wants to try that new place downtown." Another file, dated a week later. God, I feel like I'm 25 again. Rick hasn't made me feel this way in years, maybe ever. Zane says I'm beautiful, that I'm wasted on someone who doesn't appreciate me. And the most damning one, recorded just 5 days ago. I think Rick suspects something. He's been asking weird questions about my schedule. Maybe it's time to have the conversation about how unhappy I've been. Set the stage, you know? Make it his fault when this all comes out. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the audio files. She'd been planning to blame me for her affair. The birthday speech about feeling invisible hadn't been a cry for help. It had been preparation for war. My phone rang. Tommy Chen's name appeared on the screen. "Jesus, Rick," he said, before I could even say hello. "What the hell happened back there?" The truth happened. You humiliated her in front of the entire town. People are already posting about it online. Lisa Marrow live-tweeted the whole thing. I pulled up social media on my computer. Sure enough, Iris Gate was already trending locally. Photos of the scattered pictures, videos of Iris's shocked face, speculation about how long the affair had been going on. "She humiliated herself," I said. "I just provided the documentation." "But in front of everyone? At her birthday party? That's pretty harsh, man." "You know what's harsh, Tommy? Planning to destroy someone's reputation to cover your own tracks. Want to hear the recordings?" I played him the voice memo about making it my fault. The line went quiet. "Okay," Tommy said finally. That's pretty calculated. She's been setting me up for weeks. Tonight was supposed to be the opening act of her victim narrative. Poor Iris, trapped in a loveless marriage with a man who doesn't appreciate her. Poor Iris, forced to find connection elsewhere because her husband is so cold and distant. So what now? Now she learns what real consequences feel like. After Tommy hung up, I spent the next hour organizing my evidence into neat digital folders. Photos, timestamps, location data, financial records, voice memos, everything cross-referenced and verified. My phone buzzed with another call, Iris this time. "Rick, we need to talk." "I'm listening." "Not over the phone. This is complicated. There are things you don't understand." "Try me." A pause. Then, "I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. But what you did tonight..." "What I did tonight was tell the truth. Something you've forgotten how to do. You destroyed me in front of everyone we know." "No, Iris, you destroyed yourself. I just provided the evidence. People are calling me names, posting things online. My mother already called crying, 'How could you do this to me?' The question hung in the air like smoke from a house fire she'd started herself. "The same way you could do what you did to me," I said, "except I used facts instead of lies. I never meant for this to happen. It just developed naturally. Zane understood me in ways you haven't in years." "Zane's 25 years old, Iris. He understands protein shakes and Instagram followers. He doesn't understand you. He's using you." "That's not true." "Check your bank account." Another pause. Longer this time. "What did you do?" "I protected our assets. Funny thing about joint accounts, either party can restrict access when they suspect fraudulent activity. All those hotel bills you've been hiding, that's marital fraud, technically. You can't just..." "I already did. You want to play house with your trainer? You can do it with your own money." I hung up and turned off the phone. Outside, a car pulled into the driveway. Through the window, I watched Iris get out of Melanie's car, her shoulders shaking. Melanie walked her to the door, shooting angry glances toward the house. They stood on the porch for several minutes, talking in urgent whispers. Then Melanie left, and Iris came inside. I heard her footsteps in the hallway, then the sound of her trying the bedroom door. Locked. I'd changed the locks on our bedroom and my office 3 days ago, after I'd found the hotel receipts. "Rick?" Her voice was smaller now, uncertain. "The bedroom door is locked." "Guest rooms available," I called back. "Fresh sheets in the linen closet." "This is my house, too." "And those were my marriage vows you broke. Funny how property rights work when trust disappears." I heard her try the door handle again, then her footsteps retreating down the hall. My computer chimed with a new email. Dave Garrison, her boss, sending a message to my work account. "Rick, I think we should talk about tonight's events. There may be professional implications for Iris that we need to discuss." Professional implications. I smiled at that phrase. Dave had always been protective of Iris, probably harboring his own fantasies about rescuing her from her neglectful husband. I typed back, "Happy to discuss. I have extensive documentation if HR needs to review the situation." His response came back within minutes. That won't be necessary. Let's keep this private. But privacy was no longer an option. Iris had made sure of that when she decided to rewrite our marriage as a tragedy with me as the villain. I opened a new browser window and started researching divorce attorneys. Not because I was ready to file, but because I wanted to understand exactly what weapons were available when this war escalated. And it would escalate. Iris wasn't the type to accept defeat gracefully. My phone, still turned off, sat silent on the desk, but I could imagine the messages piling up, friends choosing sides, family members demanding explanations, the whole social ecosystem of our marriage realigning around this new reality. Tomorrow, everyone would know the truth about Iris Torvald's invisibility problem. Tonight, I had planning to do. Al's Tavern sits on the corner of Main and 3rd, the kind of place where secrets go to die and reputations get dissected over cheap beer and expensive whiskey. I'd been avoiding it since the birthday incident 3 days ago, but avoidance wasn't going to solve my problems. The conversation stopped when I walked in. Al himself, a 60-year-old former mechanic with grease permanently embedded under his fingernails, looked up from wiping down glasses. His expression was carefully neutral, the look of a man who'd heard every version of every story and trusted none of them completely. "Rick," he said with a nod. "Heard you've been having some excitement." "That's one way to put it." I took a seat at the far end of the bar, away from the cluster of regulars who were pretending not to stare. The local news was playing on the television, but the real entertainment was clearly happening right here. "Beer?" Al asked. "Make it a whiskey. It's been that kind of week." He poured 2 fingers of something that probably came from a plastic bottle, but tasted like liquid courage. I sipped it slowly, letting the burn settle in my chest while I listened to the conversations gradually resume around me. "Never would have guessed she had it in her. That trainer's been working with half the wives in town. Rick always seemed like such a nice guy." Tommy Chen appeared at my elbow, sliding onto the adjacent stool like he'd been summoned. "You're either very brave or very stupid," he said. "Probably both. Iris has been calling everyone, trying to do damage control. Says you've been having problems for months, that she was planning to ask for a separation anyway. Interesting revision of history. She's also saying you violated her privacy by going through her phone." I laughed, a sound with no humor in it. Her phone that was backed up to our shared account? Her phone that she used on our family plan? That privacy? I'm just telling you what she's saying. And what are people believing? Tommy glanced around the room. Mixed reactions. The older folks are pretty shocked by the whole thing. Some of the women are sympathizing with her, saying you should have handled it privately. But the guys? He shrugged. Most of them are saying they'd have done the same thing. Al materialized in front of us, ostensibly cleaning glasses, but clearly listening. "You want my opinion?" he said without being asked. "Woman cheats, she loses the right to complain about how she gets caught." "Nobody asked for your opinion, Al," came a voice from behind us. I turned to see Melanie Kramer approaching, her face flushed with righteous anger. She'd been Iris's champion since college, the kind of friend who would help hide bodies without asking questions. "Melanie," I said evenly, "how's the damage control going?" "You're a real piece of work, you know that? Humiliating her like that in front of everyone. She's devastated. She should be. Adultery tends to have that effect when it gets exposed. You don't understand what she's been going through, how lonely she's been, how neglected. I understand perfectly. I have recordings." That stopped her mid-sentence. Her mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. "Recordings?" I pulled out my phone and found the voice memo about making it my fault. Hit play. Iris's voice filled the immediate area around us. "Maybe it's time to have the conversation about how unhappy I've been. Set the stage, you know? Make it his fault when this all comes out." The nearby conversations died again. Even Al stopped pretending to clean glasses. Melanie's face went through several expressions: confusion, recognition, then something that looked like betrayal. She was going to blame me for her affair, I said quietly. Make me the villain in her victim story. Tell me again how I should have handled this privately. She was just scared. People say things when they're scared. People also do things when they're scared, like plan character assassination campaigns against their spouses. I finished my whiskey and stood up. You want to help Iris? Tell her to stop trying to rewrite history. The truth is already out there. I left money on the bar and walked toward the door. Behind me, I heard Melanie's voice, smaller now. Al, can you turn that off? But the damage was done. The recording had been heard by at least a dozen people, and in a town like ours, that meant it would be heard by everyone within hours. My phone rang as I reached my truck. Unknown number. Is this Rick Hayward? Depends who's asking. This is Detective Granger with the County Sheriff's Office. I'd like to speak with you about a complaint we received. My stomach tightened. What kind of complaint? Harassment, stalking, invasion of privacy. Can you come down to the station? When? Now would be good. The sheriff's station was a low brick building that had been built in the 1970s and hadn't been updated since. Detective Granger was younger than I'd expected, maybe mid-30s, with the kind of mustache that suggested he took himself very seriously. Mr. Hayward, he said, gesturing to a chair across from his desk. Thanks for coming in. Am I under arrest? No, nothing like that. Just want to clear up some confusion about recent events. He opened a folder and pulled out what looked like a formal complaint form. Your wife alleges that you've been stalking her, accessing her private communications without consent, and engaging in a campaign of harassment designed to damage her reputation. My wife has been having an affair for months. I documented it using legally accessible information from our shared accounts and devices. She says you hired someone to follow her. I didn't need to hire anyone. Her fitness tracker recorded everywhere she went. What about these photographs? He showed me copies of the pictures I'd given Iris at the party. Someone had already turned them over to the police. Security cameras are public record, I said. Hotel lobbies, parking garages, public spaces. I didn't break into anywhere or hire private investigators. But you did compile this information with the intent to embarrass and humiliate your wife. I compiled this information with the intent to document adultery for divorce proceedings. The embarrassment was a side effect of her choices, not my actions. Granger leaned back in his chair, studying me. You seem pretty calm for someone whose marriage just exploded. I've had 3 weeks to process this. She's had 3 hours. Any chance you two can work this out privately? Save everyone a lot of paperwork? That ship sailed when she decided to blame me for her affair. He closed the folder. I'm not seeing any criminal activity here, Mr. Hayward. Your wife has every right to file for divorce, and you have every right to document adultery if you can prove it. But I'd suggest you both get lawyers and keep this civil. I'm always civil, Detective. It's one of my better qualities. What about this business at the bar tonight? Playing recordings of private conversations? Word traveled fast in small towns. Voice memos that were backed up to our shared cloud storage aren't private conversations. They're digital documents. Technically, maybe, but you're playing with fire here. This kind of thing can escalate quickly. It already escalated. I'm just managing the aftermath. I drove home through streets that felt different now, like I was seeing my own town from the outside. Every house held people who were probably talking about us right now, dissecting our marriage over dinner, choosing sides in a war they didn't fully understand. Iris's car wasn't in the driveway. Good. I needed time to think. Inside, I found evidence of her presence. Coffee cup in the sink, towels in the guest bathroom, the smell of her perfume lingering in the hallway, but also signs of her absence, clothes missing from the closet, toiletries gone from the bathroom counter. She was moving out, or at least preparing to. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This isn't over. Z Zane, the 25-year-old personal trainer who thought he could intimidate a 47-year-old IT consultant. I texted back, "You're right, it's just getting started." Then I opened my laptop and started researching everything I could find about Zane Marinor. His business license, his social media accounts, his client list, his financial records. If he wanted to play games, I'd show him what a real game looked like. Dave Garrison's office occupied the corner of the third floor of the Meridian Marketing Building, all glass walls and chrome fixtures designed to project success. I'd been here before for company parties, back when Iris and I were still pretending to be happily married. Now I sat across from Dave's desk while he avoided eye contact and shuffled papers nervously. "This is awkward," he said finally. "It doesn't have to be. Rick, you have to understand, Iris is a valuable employee. She's been with us for 6 years, she has client relationships, projects in progress, and she's been having an affair with her personal trainer while representing your company at business functions." Dave winced. Her personal life is her personal life. Not when she's using company resources to facilitate it. Hotel rooms booked through the corporate account, meetings rescheduled to accommodate her schedule, clients told she was in training sessions when she was actually in bed with someone half her age. I pulled out a folder and placed it on his desk. Timeline of her affair cross-referenced with her work calendar. Notice how many client meetings got moved to accommodate her extracurricular activities. Dave opened the folder reluctantly, his face growing paler as he flipped through the pages. "Where did you get this?" "Shared calendar access. She never removed me from her work account after we set up the sync 3 years ago. This is a problem. It's about to be a bigger problem. Zane Marinor has been posting on social media about his relationship with a successful older woman who appreciates him. Want to guess what happens when your clients start connecting those dots?" Dave's phone rang. He glanced at the caller ID and grimaced. "I have to take this." He answered with forced cheerfulness. "Hi, Margaret. Yes, I saw the social media posts. No, we're handling it internally." He listened for a moment, then, "I understand your concerns. Let me call you back." He hung up and rubbed his temples. "Margaret Chen, no relation to your friend Tommy, handles our biggest account. She's asking questions about Iris's professionalism." "Smart woman. Rick, what do you want here? Are you trying to get Iris fired?" "I'm trying to make sure there are consequences for her actions. She spent months planning to destroy my reputation to cover her tracks. Seems fair that her reputation should take some damage too. She's already been humiliated publicly. Isn't that enough?" "She humiliated herself. I just provided the documentation." Dave leaned back in his chair, studying me with something that looked like grudging respect. "You know, I always thought you were too passive for her, too willing to let things slide. Turns out I was just gathering evidence. What happens now? Now you decide whether your company wants to be associated with someone who lies to clients, manipulates schedules for personal gain, and uses corporate resources to facilitate adultery. And if I don't fire her? Then you explain to your other clients why professional ethics don't apply to Iris Torvell. Good luck with that." I stood up and headed for the door. "Rick," Dave called after me. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry this happened to you." "No, you're not. You've been in love with her for years. You're sorry it wasn't you instead of Zane." His face flushed red, but he didn't deny it. "The difference is," I continued, "you would have waited until after she left me. Zane didn't care about collateral damage. I left him sitting there with the folder of evidence and his uncomfortable truths." My next stop was the Riverside Fitness Center, where Zane worked and where Iris had supposedly been getting into the best shape of her life. The irony wasn't lost on me. The gym was busy with the afternoon crowd, mostly women in expensive workout clothes, and men who spent more on supplements than I spent on groceries. Zane was easy to spot. Tall, muscular, with the kind of artificial confidence that came from being told, He was special by women old enough to be his mother. He was training a client when I walked in, guiding her through some complicated exercise involving resistance bands and a stability ball. She was maybe 50, wearing enough makeup for a photo shoot, hanging on his every word. I waited until he finished the session before approaching. "Zane Marinor?" He turned, and I watched recognition dawn in his eyes. Up close, he was younger than I'd expected, with the kind of smooth skin that had never been tested by real adversity. "You must be Rick." "I must be. Look, man, I'm sorry about how this all went down. It wasn't supposed to happen like this." "How was it supposed to happen?" "I don't know. More gradually, I guess. Iris said you guys were having problems anyway." "Iris says a lot of things. Most of them aren't true." He glanced around nervously. The gym was full of people pretending to exercise while actually listening to our conversation. "Maybe we should talk somewhere private." "I'm comfortable here, unless you're not." You just think you can intimidate me with text messages and veiled threats." "Let me explain something, Zane. I'm 47 years old. I've been married for 15 years to a woman who spent the last 3 months planning to destroy my reputation. You think you scare me? I never threatened you." I pulled out my phone and showed him the text from the night before. "This isn't over. Z. That's not a threat. That's just me saying the situation isn't resolved." "What situation?" "You were having an affair with my wife. I exposed it. She's facing consequences. You're facing consequences. Seems pretty resolved to me. She's getting divorced because of you. She's getting divorced because of her choices. I'm just the messenger. You humiliated her in front of everyone. She humiliated herself. I provided the evidence." I was starting to sound like a broken record, but the truth didn't change just because people didn't want to hear it. "What do you want from me?" he asked. "I want you to understand that actions have consequences. You thought you could help destroy a marriage without any personal cost. You were wrong. I never meant to destroy anything. It just happened." "Nothing just happened, Zane. You made choices. She made choices. Now you both get to live with the results." I turned to leave, then paused. "By the way, you might want to check your client list. Word is getting around about your extracurricular activities. Turns out married women don't like trainers who sleep with other married women. Bad for business." I left him standing there in his expensive gym clothes, probably calculating how many clients he was about to lose. The drive home took me past the community center, where this had all started 4 days ago. The parking lot was empty now, but I could still picture the scene. Iris opening the box, the photographs scattering, the moment when her carefully constructed narrative collapsed. She'd wanted to feel visible. Now she was the most visible person in town. My phone rang. Iris again. "Rick, we need to talk." "I'm listening." "Not over the phone. Meet me somewhere. Neutral ground." "Where?" "Al's Tavern. 1 hour." "Fine." "And Rick? Come alone." The line went quiet. I sat in my truck for a moment, staring at the community center and thinking about visibility, consequences, and the strange way truth had of surfacing when you stopped trying to bury it. 1 hour. This should be interesting. Al's Tavern was nearly empty when I arrived, just a couple of regulars nursing beers and watching a baseball game on the television. Iris sat in a corner booth, her hands wrapped around a coffee cup like she was trying to steal its warmth. She looked different, smaller somehow, without the confident posture that had defined her for as long as I'd known her. Her makeup was perfect, it always was, but there were shadows under her eyes that cosmetics couldn't hide. I slid into the booth across from her. "You look tired," I said. "I haven't been sleeping well." "Guilty conscience will do that." She flinched. "Do we have to do this? The sarcasm, the cruelty? Haven't you hurt me enough?" "I haven't hurt you at all, Iris. I've just stopped protecting you from the consequences of your own actions. You destroyed my life." "You destroyed your life. I documented it. She stared into her coffee cup like it might contain answers to questions she didn't know how to ask. Dave fired me today. I heard. You went to my office. You showed him evidence. You got me fired. I showed him documentation of how your affair affected your work performance. He made his own decision. 6 years with that company. 6 years of building relationships, developing clients, creating value, gone because of one mistake. Months of lying, cheating, and planning to blame me for your affair isn't one mistake, Iris. It's a pattern of behavior. I never meant for it to go this far. What did you mean for it to do? You recorded voice memos about making it my fault when the truth came out. You scheduled your affair around work obligations. You used company resources to facilitate it. What exactly did you think was going to happen? She finally looked up at me, and for a moment I saw something that looked like the woman I'd married 15 years ago. Before the ambition consumed her. Before she started measuring her worth by other people's attention. Before she decided that marriage was something that happened to her rather than something she participated in. I felt invisible, she said quietly. You keep saying that, but what you really felt was entitled. That's not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been asking for marriage counseling when you started feeling disconnected. Fair would have been having an honest conversation about our problems. Fair would have been asking for a separation before you started sleeping with someone else. I tried to talk to you. No, you tried to manipulate me. There's a difference. I told you I was lonely. You told everyone you were lonely. But you never told me what you needed to feel less lonely. You just found someone else to fill the void and then blamed me for creating it. Zane made me feel young again, desired, beautiful. Zane is 25 years old. He makes everyone feel young. That's his job. It wasn't just physical. Of course it was. You think he was attracted to your mind, your emotional maturity? He was attracted to your credit card and your willingness to pay for hotel rooms. You don't know him. I know he's been texting me threats. I know he's been posting on social media about his relationship with you. I know he's already lining up his next client while you're sitting here defending him. That's not true. I pulled out my phone and showed her Zane's Instagram account. His most recent post was a photo of him with another woman, someone I recognized from the gym. The caption read, "New goals, new energy, new possibilities." Iris stared at the screen, her face cycling through emotions like a broken slot machine. He posted this today, I said gently. While you were getting fired, while you were losing your reputation, while you were sitting here trying to figure out how to rebuild your life. He said he loved me. He said what you needed to hear. That's what manipulators do. Like you're doing now? I'm telling you the truth. That's what husbands are supposed to do. Ex-husbands. Not yet, but soon. She finished her coffee and signaled Al for another. The silence stretched between us, like a rope neither of us wanted to pull. What happens now? She asked finally. Now you face the consequences of your choices. You find a new job, rebuild your reputation, and learn to live with the fact that actions have results. And us? There is no us. There hasn't been for months. I was just too stupid to see it. I never wanted to hurt you. Yes, you did. You planned to hurt me. You recorded voice memos about making it my fault. You were going to destroy my reputation to protect your own. I was scared. So was I. The difference is, I was scared of losing something real. You were scared of losing something fake. Our marriage wasn't fake. The last 3 months were, maybe longer. Al brought her coffee and retreated to a safe distance. The baseball game droned on in the background, a soundtrack to the end of everything we'd built together. I found an apartment, she said. I'll be out of the house by the weekend. Good. I'll need some of the furniture, personal things. Make a list, we'll figure it out. And the money, the bank accounts? We'll let the lawyers handle that. You really want a divorce? I really want honesty. Since you can't provide that, divorce is the only option left. She nodded slowly, like she was finally understanding something that had been obvious to everyone else. For what it's worth, she said, I am sorry. Sorry you got caught, or sorry you did it? Both, I think. That's something, I guess. She stood up, leaving money on the table for her coffee. Rick? Yeah? I hope someday you can forgive me. I already have. That's why I'm letting you walk away instead of making this uglier than it already is. What do you mean? I mean, I have enough evidence to destroy what's left of your reputation completely. Voice recordings, financial records, hotel receipts, GPS data, everything you did, when you did it, how much it cost, and who helped you hide it. Her face went pale. But I'm not going to use it unless you force me to. You want a quiet divorce? You can have one. You want to fight dirty? I've got more ammunition than you can imagine. You're threatening me. I'm offering you a choice. Same choice you should have offered me 3 months ago. She stared at me for a long moment, then nodded and walked toward the door. Iris? She turned back. You were never invisible. You just weren't looking in the right direction. She left without responding. I sat in the booth for another hour, nursing a whiskey and watching the baseball game. Al eventually came over and refilled my glass without being asked. Rough conversation, he said. Necessary conversation. Those are usually the worst kind. Yeah, but they're also usually the most important. My phone buzzed with a text from Tommy. Heard about Dave firing Iris, you okay? I typed back. I'm fine. Justice isn't always pretty, but it's always necessary. Outside, the sun was setting over our small town, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. Tomorrow, people would still be talking about us. Next week, they'd find something else to gossip about. Next month, we'd be old news. But tonight, for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. Iris had wanted to feel visible. She'd gotten her wish, just not in the way she'd planned. And I'd learned something about myself. I wasn't the passive, neglectful husband she'd painted me as. I was just a man who'd trusted the wrong person for too long. That mistake was over now. The reckoning was complete.